Maggie Holloway's fingers clawed through the dirt, dragging her broken body across the Texas plains. Blood soaked through her dress. Her ribs screamed with every breath. Behind her, hoofbeats thundered closer. They were coming to finish what they'd started. But Maggie didn't stop. She couldn't. Because sewn into her corset was the one thing that could destroy the most powerful man in the county, and she'd die before she let them take it back. If you want to see how far Maggie's fight takes her, subscribe now and stay until the end. Drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The first thing Samuel Carver heard was the gunshot. He dropped the feed bucket and grabbed his rifle before the echo died. 8 years as a Texas Ranger had taught him that much. Sound traveled strange across the flatlands at dusk, bending around rocks and hills. But this one came from the eastern ridge. Close. Too close. Sam moved low through the tall grass rifle, steady. The summer heat hadn't broken yet, and sweat ran down his back. His ranch sat alone out here 3 miles from Redstone Creek, and that's exactly how he wanted it. No neighbors. No visitors. No ghosts from a past he couldn't outrun. Another shot. Then a woman's scream. Sam ran. He crested the ridge and stopped cold. Below him, in the shallow gully that cut across his property line, a woman was fighting for her life. Not cowering, not crying, fighting. She had a rock in her hand and blood on her face, and she swung at the man circling her like she meant to crack his skull open. "Stay down," the man shouted. He was big, broad-shouldered, wearing a leather vest with silver buttons. "The judge wants you alive, but he didn't say nothing about unharmed." The woman spat blood. "Then come get me." The man lunged. She sidestepped barely and brought the rock down on his shoulder. He howled. She ran, but her legs gave out after 3 steps and she hit the dirt hard. Sam didn't think. He raised the rifle. "That's far enough." The man spun, hand going to his holster. Then he saw Sam on the ridge barrel, aimed dead center at his chest, and froze. "This ain't your concern, rancher." "You're on my land," Sam said. "That makes it my concern." "Walk away." The man's voice dropped low, dangerous. "You don't know who you're crossing. I know a man beaten on a woman when I see one." Sam's finger rested on the trigger. "Now you got about 3 seconds to get on your horse and ride out before I give you a reason to stay permanent." The standoff stretched. The woman lay in the dirt between them, breathing hard, watching. She didn't cry for help, didn't beg, just watched like she was calculating her next move. Finally, the man backed toward his horse. "This ain't over. The judge'll hear about this." "Tell him I said howdy." The man mounted and rode hard toward the south. Sam waited until the hoofbeats faded before lowering his rifle. Only then did he look at the woman. She was already trying to stand. "Easy," Sam said, moving down the slope. "You're hurt. Don't touch me." She lurched away, one hand pressed to her ribs. Her dress was torn at the shoulder, dirt-caked and blood-stained. Auburn hair fell in tangles around a face that might have been pretty before someone used it for a punching bag. "I don't know you." "Name's Sam Carver. This is my ranch." "Good for you." She stumbled, caught herself on a boulder. "Which way to town?" 3 miles east. You won't make it 200 yards. "Watch me." She took 4 steps before her knees buckled. Sam caught her before she hit the ground. Up close, he could see how bad it was, split lip swelling around her left eye, bruises on her arms shaped like fingers. Someone had worked her over good. "Let go," she said, but there was no strength behind it. "You're gonna bleed out in my field," Sam said flatly. "That's gonna bring questions I don't want to answer. So here's what's gonna happen. You're coming to my cabin. You're letting me patch you up. And then you're telling me why a man wearing Judge Whitmore's insignia wanted you so bad he was willing to kill for it." Her head snapped up. "You know the judge." "I know enough." Sam pulled her arm over his shoulder. "Can you walk?" She didn't answer, but she didn't fight him either. The cabin was small, rough-hewn, built for function over comfort. 1 room, 1 cot, a wood stove, a table with 2 chairs that had never seated 2 people. Sam eased the woman onto the cot and lit the lamp. "Don't move." He gathered what he had: clean rags, a bottle of whiskey, a sewing kit his sister-in-law had left behind. When he turned back, the woman was trying to stand again. "I said don't move." "I heard you." She winced, pressing her hand harder against her ribs. "I'm not good at following orders." Sam crouched in front of her, holding up the whiskey. "This is gonna hurt." "Everything already hurts." She took the bottle from him and drank deep before he could stop her. Then she handed it back, jaw set. "Do it." He cleaned the cuts on her face first. She didn't flinch, didn't cry, just stared at the wall with those gray-blue eyes somewhere far away. When he moved to her ribs, she sucked in a breath. "Cracked," Sam said. "Maybe broken. I can wrap 'em, but you need a real doctor." "No doctors." "Lady, Maggie." She met his eyes. "My name's Maggie Holloway, and I can't see a doctor because the moment I walk into town, I'm dead." Sam sat back. "Start talking." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "You really don't know, do you? You live out here all alone, minding your own business. No idea what kind of man runs your county." "I know Judge Cornelius Whitmore sits on the bench in Redstone Creek. I know folks say he's a fair man. Folks are wrong." Maggie's hands trembled as she reached into her bodice. Sam tensed, but what she pulled out wasn't a weapon. It was a letter folded small and stained with sweat and blood, and a ring, heavy gold, with a seal pressed into the face. "3 weeks ago," Maggie said, "I was working in the Whitmore house. Housekeeper. That's what they called it. What it really meant was, I scrubbed their floors, cooked their meals, and kept my mouth shut while they treated me like property." She held up the ring. "You know whose seal this is?" Sam recognized it. Everyone in the county would. "That's the Kessler family seal. Old William Kessler owned half the land between here and Austin." "Owned," Maggie repeated, past tense, because 3 weeks ago Edgar Whitmore, the judge's son, put a bullet in William Kessler's head, and I watched him do it. The words hung in the air like smoke. Sam didn't move. "Kessler came to the house that night," Maggie continued. "He was angry, shouting about land deeds, about being cheated. Edgar told me to leave, but I didn't. I hid in the pantry. I heard everything." Her voice hardened. "Edgar shot him in the study. Then he and his father spent an hour figuring out how to make it look like a robbery. They buried him in the old mine outside town. And this ring, this letter, Edgar dropped them and didn't notice. I took them." "Why?" "Because I knew." Maggie's eyes burned into his. "I knew that if I didn't have proof, no one would believe me. A housekeeper's word against a judge. They'd hang me for lying before the trial started. But this..." She held up the letter. "This is Kessler's handwriting. It talks about the land deal, about how Whitmore was trying to steal his property. And the ring proves Kessler was in that house the night he disappeared." Sam stared at the evidence in her hands. His gut twisted. He'd spent years running from this kind of trouble. Years building a life where no one else's problems became his own. And now, here was this woman, bleeding on his cot, holding a dead man's secrets like a stick of dynamite. "Why run to me?" he asked. "I didn't." She almost smiled. "I was trying to get to Austin. There's a U.S. Marshal there who isn't in Whitmore's pocket. But I didn't make it past the county line before they caught me. I've been running for 3 days." 3 days. "They caught me twice. I got away twice." She looked down at her battered body. "The third time they weren't going to make the same mistake." Sam stood, walked to the window, stared out at the darkness. The smart thing, the safe thing would be to give her a horse and send her on her way. Let her carry her troubles somewhere else. But he'd done the smart thing once before. With his sister Sarah. He'd walked away, told himself it wasn't his fight. And they'd found her body 3 counties over, dumped like garbage beside a creek. "You can't stay here," he said finally. "I know." Maggie started to rise. "Just let me rest till—" "You can't stay," Sam repeated, "because they know you were heading this direction. That man's gonna tell the judge where he lost you. They'll come here by morning." "Then I need to leave now. In your condition, you won't make it 5 miles. Sam turned to face her. "But I know these lands. Every canyon, every trail, every hiding spot. I can get you to Austin." Maggie's expression flickered surprise, suspicion, something that might have been hope. "Why would you do that?" "Because I've seen what happens when good people do nothing." Sam's jaw tightened. "And I'm tired of doing nothing." For a long moment she just looked at him. Then she held out her hand. "You got a name, rancher." Sam Carver." "Well, Sam Carver." Her grip was stronger than he expected. "I hope you know what you're getting into." He didn't. Not really. But as he watched her slide Kessler's letter back into her bodice, determination burning in those gray-blue eyes, he knew one thing for certain. There was no walking away from this. They moved before dawn. Sam gave her his spare shirt and riding coat, both too big but warmer than her torn dress. She'd argued about the clothes, argued about the horse, argued about which route to take. The woman had an opinion on everything, and the stubbornness to back it up. "The main road's faster," she said, checking the cinch on her saddle. "The main road's suicide. They'll have men posted at every crossing. Then we go through the canyons. Canyons flood this time of year. One storm, and we're trapped." Maggie wheeled on him. "Then what do you suggest, because sitting here debating isn't getting me to Austin?" Sam almost smiled. "Almost. There's an old cattle trail that runs along the ridge. It's rough terrain, but it'll keep us out of sight. We can make it to Broken Fork by nightfall. I've got a contact there who can give us fresh horses." "A contact?" "Someone who owes me a favor." Maggie studied him, those sharp eyes seeing too much. "Former Texas Ranger, lives alone, knows the judge by name, has contacts who owe favors." She tilted her head. "What exactly are you running from, Sam Carver?" "That's my business. It becomes my business if it gets me killed." She had a point. Sam hated that she had a point. "I left the Rangers 8 years ago," he said. "Personal reasons. I don't wear a badge anymore, but I still know people who do. That enough for you? For now." She mounted her horse with more grace than her injuries should have allowed. "But if you're hiding something that puts this mission in danger, I'll find out, and I won't be forgiving about it." Sam swung onto his own horse. "Lady, if I wanted you dead, I'd have let that man finish the job." "That's not reassuring." "Wasn't meant to be." He kicked his horse forward. "Now let's move." They rode through the gray light of early morning, keeping to the low ground where the mesquite grew thick. Maggie rode well, he noticed. Better than most town women. She held the reins with confidence, and her eyes never stopped scanning the horizon. "Where'd you learn to ride?" he asked. "My father. He was a blacksmith in San Antonio. Taught me horses before I could walk. Taught me how to use a hammer, too." She touched her hip, where a short-handled hammer hung from her belt. He'd noticed her grab it from her pack before they left. "He made this for me when I was 12. "Your father's still in San Antonio." "My father's dead." Her voice didn't waver. "Fever took him 3 years ago. After that I had to work. The Whitmores were hiring. I thought—" She stopped, laughed bitterly. "I thought it was an opportunity. A chance to save money, start over. Instead, I walked into a house of snakes." "And you stayed?" "Where was I supposed to go? I had no family, no money, no references. You don't just walk away from a job like that." Her jaw tightened. "Besides, I didn't know what they were. Not at first. The judge keeps his mask on tight. All charity and church sermons. It wasn't until I'd been there 6 months that I started seeing the cracks." Sam said nothing. He knew the type. Men who smiled in the daylight and turned monstrous in the dark. Men who believed their power made them untouchable. "He's going to come for you," Maggie said quietly. "The judge. Once he knows you helped me, he'll burn everything you have to the ground. Let him try. You don't understand." She pulled her horse closer to his, lowering her voice. "He owns this county. The sheriff, the deputies, half the businessmen in town. Anyone who crosses him disappears. Anyone who speaks against him ends up dead in a ditch. He's been doing this for 20 years and no one has ever stopped him." Sam met her eyes. "Then it's time someone did." For a moment, just a moment, her mask slipped. He saw something underneath. Not just fear, not just determination, but something softer. Something that wanted to believe him. Then it was gone. The walls went back up. "Pretty words," she said. "Let's see if you can back them up." They rode in silence after that. The sun rose higher, burning off the morning chill, replacing it with the brutal heat of a Texas summer. By midday, they'd covered 12 miles. Sam called a halt near a creek bed, letting the horses drink. Maggie dismounted slowly, favoring her ribs. She knelt by the water, splashing her face, wincing as the cool liquid hit her cuts. "How bad is it?" Sam asked. "I've had worse." That's not an answer. She looked up at him, water dripping from her chin. "You want honesty? Fine. My ribs feel like someone's stabbing me with every breath. My head's pounding so hard I can barely see straight. And somewhere out there, a dozen men are hunting me with orders to bring me back dead or alive." She stood, steadying herself on a rock. "But I'm still standing, and I'll keep standing until I put that letter in the marshal's hands. So no, Sam Carver, it's not bad enough to stop me." Sam felt something shift in his chest. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. He'd known soldiers who didn't have half her grit. "We should keep moving," he said. "I know." She moved toward her horse and froze. Sam heard it too. Hoofbeats. Coming fast from the south. "Get down," he hissed. They pulled the horses behind a stand of boulders, crouching low. Sam counted the riders as they appeared on the ridge. 4 men riding hard, following the main road. "Whitmore's men," Maggie whispered. Sam studied them through the gap in the rocks. Silver buttons on their vests. Rifles across their backs. One of them was the same man from yesterday, the one Sam had chased off. "Yeah. They're heading toward your ranch." "I know." Maggie's hand found his arm. Her grip was tight, urgent. "Sam, if they find the cabin empty, they'll know you had help." He watched the riders disappear over the next ridge. "They'll come looking. Then we need to move faster." "No." Sam's mind was already working, calculating distances and angles. "We need to move smarter. There's a place about 2 miles north, an old homestead, abandoned. We can hole up there until nightfall, then cut across the Badlands under dark. And if they find us before then," Sam checked his rifle, "then we fight." Maggie pulled her hammer from her belt. The steel gleamed dull in the sunlight, short-handled, perfectly balanced, worn smooth from years of use. "Then we fight," she agreed. And in that moment, crouched in the dirt with danger closing in from every side, Sam realized something that should have terrified him. He wasn't doing this just because it was right. He wasn't doing this just to atone for Sarah. He was doing this because somewhere in the last 12 hours, this stubborn, beaten, unbreakable woman had gotten under his skin. And that was more dangerous than anything the judge could throw at them. The abandoned homestead smelled like rot and forgotten dreams. Maggie pressed her back against the wall, listening. Sam moved through the space without a sound, checking corners, testing floorboards. "Clear," he said. "For now." She didn't lower her hammer. "How long until dark?" 4 hours, maybe 5. "That's too long." "You got a better idea?" She didn't. And she hated that she didn't. 3 days of running, fighting, bleeding, and now she was hiding in a dead man's house, waiting for nightfall like a rabbit in a hole. Every instinct screamed at her to move, to keep running, but her body was failing her. The ribs, the head, the exhaustion that went bone deep. Sam must have seen it in her face. He pulled a canteen from his saddlebag, held it out. Drink. Rest while you can. I don't need... Maggie. His voice cut through her protest. You're no good to anyone dead. Take the water. Sit down. That's not a request. She wanted to argue. God, she wanted to argue. But her legs were shaking, and the room was starting to spin at the edges. She took the canteen, drank deep, and sank down against the wall. Sam crouched by the window rifle across his knees. The afternoon light cast harsh lines across his face, deepening the shadows under his eyes. He looked tired too, she realized. Tired and troubled. "Why'd you really leave the Rangers?" she asked. His jaw tightened. "I told you. Personal reasons." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting." "Fair enough." Maggie closed her eyes, but she didn't stop talking. Silence felt too dangerous right now. Silence let the fear creep in. "I had a brother once. Thomas. He died in the war. Shiloh. After that it was just me and my father. And after my father..." She paused. "Just me." Sam said nothing. "You ever lose someone?" she pressed. "Someone you couldn't save?" The silence stretched so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then quietly, "Yeah." "Who?" "My sister. Sarah." The name came out rough-scraped raw. She was 22, sweet as summer rain, got herself tangled up with the wrong people. I told her to walk away. She said she could handle it. His hand tightened on the rifle. They found her body 3 weeks later. Maggie opened her eyes. Sam wasn't looking at her. His gaze was fixed on some middle distance somewhere years away. "I'm sorry," she said. "Don't be. It was my fault." He finally met her eyes. "I could have helped her. Could have fought for her. Instead, I told myself it wasn't my problem. Walked away. By the time I came back, it was too late. So that's why you're helping me. Guilt. Maybe." He stood, moved to the other window. "Or maybe I'm just tired of walking away." Maggie studied him, the set of his shoulders, the way he held himself like a man carrying weight he'd never put down. She understood that weight, carried her own version of it. "I'm not your sister," she said quietly. "I know. I'm not some helpless girl who needs saving. I figured that out when you cracked a rock against that man's skull." Sam almost smiled. Almost. "You got a mean swing, Holloway." "My father taught me. Said a woman alone in this world needs to know how to fight." "Smart man." "He was." Maggie touched the hammer at her belt. "He made me this when I was 12. Said it was too small for real blacksmith work, but perfect for protection. I've carried it ever since." Sam glanced at the weapon. Short-handled, well-balanced, the steel worn smooth from years of grip. "You any good with it? Ask the last man who tried to grab me in the dark. What happened to him? Broken wrist, broken jaw." She met Sam's eyes. "He didn't try again." For the first time since she'd met him, Sam Carver laughed. It was a short sound, surprised out of him, but real. "Remind me not to make you angry." Too late for that. But she was almost smiling too. They sat in silence for a while after that. Not the heavy silence of strangers, but something easier. Something that felt almost like understanding. Then Sam's head snapped up. "What?" Maggie was on her feet, instantly hammer in hand. "Riders, coming from the east." She moved to his side, peering through the gap in the boards. Dust clouds rising on the horizon. 3, no 4 riders moving fast. "Different group," Sam muttered. "They're flanking us." "How'd they know we were here?" "They don't. They're sweeping the area." He grabbed his rifle, checked the chamber. "But they will in about 5 minutes." Maggie's heart hammered. "Then we run." "We won't make it. Open ground between here and the canyon. They'd spot us before we got 100 yards. So we hide. In a shack with no basement and rotting walls. Sam shook his head. They'll search every building between here and Broken Fork. Maggie's mind raced. The riders were closing in. 4 men against 2, one of them barely standing. Those weren't odds, that was a death sentence. Unless. How good a shot are you? She asked. Good enough. Can you hit a moving target at 200 yards? Sam looked at her, understanding dawning. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we don't hide. Maggie moved toward the back door. I'm thinking we fight, but not here. We lead them into the rocks, split them up, pick them off one by one. That's insane. You got a better idea? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. They slipped out the back just as the first rider came into view. Maggie's ribs screamed with every step, but she forced her legs to move. The rocky outcropping Sam had mentioned earlier rose up ahead, a maze of boulders and narrow passages perfect for an ambush. You take the high ground, she whispered. I'll draw them in. Absolutely not. Sam, you're injured, you can barely stand. Which is exactly why I make perfect bait. She grabbed his arm, forcing him to look at her. They want me alive. They won't shoot to kill. But you're just an obstacle. The moment they see you, they'll put a bullet in your head. So your plan is to dangle yourself in front of 4 armed men and hope they don't decide dead is easier than alive. My plan is to survive. Her grip tightened. I've been running for 3 days. I've been beaten, chased, left for dead. I am not dying in a rotting shack in the middle of nowhere. So you're going to climb those rocks, you're going to take your shots, and I'm going to do what I do best. Which is, make men underestimate me. Sam stared at her. Something shifted in his eyes, respect maybe, or resignation. You're crazy, he said. Probably. She let go of his arm. Now move. He moved. Maggie watched him scale the rocks with practiced ease, disappearing into a crevice that gave him a clear sightline to the approach. Then she turned, stepped out into the open, and waited. The riders spotted her immediately. Shouts rose. Horses wheeled. 4 men converged on her position, spreading out to cut off escape routes. She didn't run. The first rider reached her, young, eager, too confident. He leapt from his horse, grabbing for her arm. Got her, I got. Maggie's hammer caught him in the knee. He went down screaming. She was already moving, ducking under the second rider's grab, rolling between the horses. Chaos erupted. Horses reared. Men shouted. The crack of Sam's rifle split the air. One rider toppled from his saddle, clutching his shoulder. Another spun, searching for the shooter. Sam's second shot caught him in the thigh. He fell. 2 down, 2 left. Maggie scrambled toward the rocks, but the third rider was faster. He cut off her path, dismounting with a knife in his hand. Big man, mean eyes, the same silver buttons on his vest. The judge is going to enjoy breaking you, he said. Maggie raised her hammer. He can try. He lunged. She sidestepped, but her ribs betrayed her. A spike of pain that stole her breath slowed her swing. The knife caught her sleeve, slicing through fabric and flesh. She cried out, stumbled. The man grinned. Not so tough now, are... The fourth rider's body slammed into him from behind. Sam had shot the horse, and when it went down, the rider went with it, crashing into his partner like a human cannonball. Both men hit the ground in a tangle of limbs. Maggie didn't hesitate. She brought her hammer down on the knife wielder's hand. Bones crunched. The knife clattered away. She hit him again, temple this time. He went still. The fourth man tried to rise. Sam's boot caught him in the jaw. He dropped. Silence. Dust settling. 4 men down, none dead, but none getting up anytime soon. Sam grabbed Maggie's arm, steadying her. You're bleeding. I noticed. She was shaking, adrenaline, pain, exhaustion all crashing together. But I'm standing. Barely. He checked her arm, ripping a strip from his shirt to bind the wound. That was either the bravest thing I've ever seen or the stupidest. Can't it be both? He tied off the bandage hands, rough but careful. We need to move. Now. More will come. I know. She tested her arm, wincing. The bleeding had slowed, but the pain was white-hot. How far to Broken Fork? 12 miles. We can make it by nightfall if we ride hard. Then let's ride hard. They took the 2 best horses left, the rest scattered and rode. The sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Maggie kept her eyes forward, but she could feel Sam watching her. What? She asked. You saved my life back there. You saved mine first. We're even. That's not... He shook his head. Most people would have run, tried to save themselves. I'm not most people. She glanced at him. And you're the only thing standing between me and a shallow grave. Seemed like a poor time to let you die. He was quiet for a moment. Then, my sister would have liked you. Something shifted in Maggie's chest. Something warm and unexpected. Yeah? Yeah. She was stubborn too. Fought for what she believed in, even when it cost her. His voice roughened. Especially when it cost her. Sounds like she was brave. She was. Braver than me. Sam looked away. I should have been there for her. Should have fought beside her instead of telling her to give up. You can't save everyone, Sam. I know. He met her eyes again. But maybe I can save you. Maggie didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know what to feel. This man, this stranger who'd pulled her from the dirt and thrown his life away for hers, was looking at her like she mattered. Like she was worth saving. She wasn't used to that. Wasn't sure she trusted it. Don't make promises you can't keep, she said quietly. I don't. They rode on. Broken Fork appeared as dusk settled, a cluster of buildings huddled against the purple sky. Not much of a town, but it had what they needed, a stable, a general store, and a woman named Ruth Carver, who ran the only boarding house in 30 miles. Your sister-in-law? Maggie asked as they approached. My brother's widow. Michael died 6 years ago. Fever. Ruth stayed on, built herself a life here. Sam's jaw tightened. She's good people. She'll help. Does she know what you're doing? Not yet. That's going to be a fun conversation. Sam didn't respond. He dismounted at the back of the boarding house, helped Maggie down, and knocked 3 times on the kitchen door. A pause. Then the door cracked open, revealing a woman in her 40s, graying hair, pulled back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Samuel. Ruth's voice was flat. You look like hell. Good to see you too, Ruth. Her gaze shifted to Maggie, taking in the blood, the bruises, the hammer still clutched in her hand. And who's this? Someone who needs help. Clearly. Ruth stepped back, opening the door wider. Get inside, both of you, before someone sees. The kitchen was warm, smelling of bread and wood smoke. Ruth moved with efficient purpose, clearing a space at the table, lighting another lamp. Sit, talk. And it better be good, Samuel, because you've got that look. What look? The look you get when you're about to do something noble and stupid. She set a pot of water on the stove. Start from the beginning. Sam told her. Everything: the fight at his ranch, Maggie's evidence, the judge's men, the chase. Ruth listened without interruption, her face growing harder with each word. When he finished, she turned to Maggie. Can I see it? The letter? Maggie hesitated. Then she reached into her bodice and pulled out the blood-stained paper, handing it over. Ruth read it slowly, lips moving. When she looked up, something had changed in her eyes. William Kessler was a good man, she said quietly. He used to come through here twice a year, always stopped at the boarding house, always tipped the girls. She set the letter down. The judge told everyone he ran off, left his wife and children. No one believed it, but no one asked questions either. No one ever asks questions about the judge, Maggie said bitterly. No, they don't. Ruth looked at Sam. You know what you're doing? Really no. I know. If Whitmore finds out you helped her, he'll destroy you. He'll burn your ranch, ruin your name, put a bounty on your head so high every two-bit outlaw in Texas will come gunning for you. I know. And you're doing it anyway. Sam met his sister-in-law's eyes. Sarah. The name hung between them. Ruth's face softened. You stupid, stubborn fool, she said quietly. Michael would be proud. Michael would call me an idiot. That too. She stood, moving to a cabinet. You'll need supplies, fresh horses. I've got a contact at the stable who owes me. He'll keep quiet. The road to Austin is crawling with Whitmore's people, but there's an old supply route through the ridge that most folks have forgotten. You'll have to ride through the night. Thank you, Ruth. Don't thank me yet. She pulled out a bundle dried meat hardtack, a small bag of coins. If you get caught, I don't know you. Either of you. I've got a business to run and a life I'm not ready to lose. Understood. Ruth turned to Maggie, pressing the bundle into her hands. Take care of him. He thinks he's invincible, but he's not. I figured that out already. Good. Ruth almost smiled. You might be the first woman stubborn enough to keep up with him. They left through the back, following Ruth's directions to a small stable on the edge of town. The contact was there, a weathered man named Hector, who asked no questions and took the coins Ruth had provided without comment. Fresh horses, provisions, and a map marked with the ridge route. Sam and Maggie mounted up just as the moon rose. 12 hours to Austin, Sam said, if we ride through the night. Then we ride through the night. They'd barely cleared the town limits when the shot rang out. Maggie's horse stumbled. She threw herself clear as the animal went down, hitting the dirt hard enough to see stars. Pain exploded through her ribs, her arm, her skull. For a moment, the world went white. Maggie. Sam's voice distant, desperate. She forced her eyes open. 3 riders emerging from the darkness. Not the same men as before, these were different. Better armed, more dangerous. And leading them, silver hair gleaming in the moonlight, was a face she knew too well. Edgar Whitmore. Miss Holloway. His voice was pleasant, conversational, like they were meeting at a church social. You've led us on quite a chase. Sam had his rifle up, but 3 guns were aimed at his chest. He didn't fire. Smart man, Edgar said. Put it down, now. Sam didn't move. I said put it down. Edgar's tone hardened. Or I'll have my men put a bullet in her skull right now. Slowly, Sam lowered the rifle. Good. Edgar dismounted, walking toward Maggie with measured steps. Now then, I believe you have something that belongs to me. Maggie spat blood. I don't have anything of yours. The letter, my father's ring. Edgar crouched beside her, close enough that she could smell the pomade in his hair. Don't play stupid, Miss Holloway. It doesn't suit you. Go to hell. His hand shot out, grabbing her jaw, forcing her head up. I could kill you right now. Make it look like bandits. No one would question it. He smiled. But that would be wasteful. You've seen things, heard things. You're a liability I need to eliminate properly. Then do it. Maggie's voice didn't waver. Kill me. But know this, that letter is already on its way to Austin. Everything you've done, everything your father's done, it's all going to come out. For the first time, Edgar's smile flickered. You're lying. Am I? She forced a laugh, tasting copper. You think I carried the original on me? After 3 days of running, I'm not that stupid. Then where is it? Somewhere you'll never find it. Edgar's grip tightened on her jaw. His eyes searched hers, looking for the lie. Maggie held his gaze, praying he couldn't see the truth that the letter was still sewn into her corset, pressed against her skin. Kill the man, Edgar said. No. Maggie lunged, but Edgar held her down. Wait. Sam's voice cut through the chaos. Wait. I know where the letter is. Edgar paused. Explain. She gave it to someone, in Broken Fork. I saw her pass it off before we left. Sam's face was stone, but his eyes were locked on Maggie's, telling her something, warning her. Kill me and you'll never find it. Edgar released Maggie standing. He walked toward Sam, considering. You're the rancher, the one who's been helping her. That's right. Why, what's she to you? Nothing. Sam's voice was flat. Just a woman with information worth money. The judge pays well for loyalty, doesn't he? I figured I'd earn my share. Maggie's heart clenched. What was he doing? Edgar studied Sam for a long moment. Then he laughed. You expect me to believe you were playing her this whole time? Believe what you want. But if you want that letter, you need me alive. Or I could simply torture it out of you. You could try, but I spent 8 years as a Texas Ranger. I know how to keep my mouth shut. Sam's eyes were cold now, calculating. Or you could take me to your father. Let him decide what I'm worth. The silence stretched. Maggie couldn't breathe, couldn't think. If this was a ploy, she couldn't see the angle. If it wasn't, Edgar shrugged. Fine, bring them both. My father will sort this out. Men grabbed Maggie, hauling her to her feet. She met Sam's eyes as they were loaded onto horses bound hand and foot. He didn't look away, and in that moment, she understood. He'd bought them time, nothing more, nothing less. A gamble that might save them or damn them both. The horses began to move, carrying them toward Redstone Creek. Toward the judge. Maggie's fingers brushed against her corset, feeling the hard edge of the letter beneath the fabric. They weren't dead yet. The ride to Redstone Creek took 4 hours. 4 hours of rope cutting into her wrists. 4 hours of watching Sam's back, wondering if his gamble would save them or bury them. 4 hours of Edgar Whitmore's smug smile burning into her skull. They entered town before dawn, streets empty, buildings dark. Edgar led them straight to the courthouse, a 2-story structure that loomed against the graying sky like a tombstone. Men waited on the steps, armed, ready. Take them to my father's chambers, Edgar ordered, and search the woman, thoroughly. Maggie's blood turned to ice. Hands grabbed her, dragging her off the horse. She fought, kicked, twisted, bit, but there were too many of them. A woman with cold eyes and colder hands patted her down, searching every pocket, every fold of fabric. Nothing, the woman reported. Edgar's jaw tightened. Check again. I checked twice. She's clean. Maggie's heart hammered. The letter was still there, sewn into the lining of her corset, pressed flat against her ribs. They'd missed it. By some miracle, they'd missed it. Edgar grabbed her arm, yanking her toward the courthouse doors. My father will get the truth out of you, one way or another. The chambers were dark, lit only by a single lamp on a massive oak desk. Behind it sat Judge Cornelius Whitmore. He was older than Maggie expected. Silver hair swept back from a weathered face, sharp eyes that missed nothing. He wore a black coat, perfectly pressed, a gold pocket watch chain glinting at his vest. He looked like a grandfather, like a man who read bedtime stories to children and donated to charity. He looked like a lie. Miss Holloway. His voice was warm, pleasant. Please sit. I'd rather stand. As you wish. The judge folded his hands on the desk. My son tells me you've been causing quite a bit of trouble, running through the county, spreading lies, convincing good men to betray their neighbors. His eyes shifted to Sam. Mr. Carver, I remember you. Texas Ranger, weren't you? Retired young. Such a waste of talent. Sam said nothing. I'm told you know where Miss Holloway hid certain documents. Documents that could cause significant harm to innocent people if they fell into the wrong hands. The judge smiled. I'm hoping we can resolve this peacefully. Tell me where the letter is and you're both free to go. You're lying, Maggie said. Perhaps. The judge didn't deny it. But consider your alternatives. My son is not a patient man. Neither are the men in my employ. If you don't cooperate willingly, we'll extract the information by force. And I promise you, Miss Holloway, that will be far less pleasant. I've been beaten before. I can handle it. I'm sure you can. The judge's smile widened. But can Mr. Carver? Maggie's stomach dropped. Edgar, bring her in. The door opened. Two men dragged a woman into the chambers, bound, gagged, eyes wide with terror. Ruth. No. Sam's voice cracked. Ruth? Don't. Edgar pressed a gun to Ruth's temple. One wrong move and she dies. Sam went rigid, every muscle locked. His eyes were fixed on Ruth, on the gun against her head, on the fear bleeding from her face. Here's how this works, the judge said calmly. You tell me where the letter is. I verify it's genuine, and then Mrs. Carver goes free. Simple. Clean. No one else needs to get hurt. You'll kill us anyway, Maggie said. Maybe, maybe not. The judge shrugged. But if you don't cooperate, I'll definitely kill her. Right now, in front of both of you. He leaned forward. Is your pride worth her life, Miss Holloway? Maggie looked at Ruth, this woman who'd helped them without question, who'd risked everything for a brother-in-law she clearly loved. Ruth's eyes were streaming tears, but behind the fear there was something else. Defiance. A silent message. Don't give in. The letter's gone, Maggie said. I sent it to Austin 3 days ago, a contact in San Antonio. It's already in the marshal's hands. The judge studied her, long, hard, searching for the lie. She's bluffing, Edgar said. Kill the woman. That'll make her talk. Patience. The judge held up a hand. Miss Holloway is clever. Clever enough to survive 3 days on the run. Clever enough to convince a former ranger to risk his life for her. He stood walking around the desk. But clever people make mistakes. They get overconfident. They think they're smarter than everyone else. He stopped in front of Maggie, close enough that she could smell his cologne expensive cloying wrong. I've been doing this for 20 years, he said quietly. Building this county, shaping it, making it mine. Do you really think one letter, one witness, one frightened little girl is going to bring me down? Yes. The word came out steady, strong, even though her hands were shaking and her ribs were screaming and every instinct told her to run. Yes, she repeated, because you made a mistake too. You thought no one would care. You thought a housekeeper, a nobody, would be too scared to fight back. But I'm not scared anymore. And when that letter reaches Austin, when the marshal sees what you've done, your whole kingdom comes crashing down. The judge's eyes hardened. Kill Mrs. Carver. Wait. Sam's voice broke the moment. Wait. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. Edgar paused, gun still pressed to Ruth's head. Sam, don't. Maggie started. Shut up. Sam's eyes were wild, desperate. I know where the letter is. The real one. She gave it to someone in Broken Fork before we left. A woman. Elena. Maggie's heart stopped. Elena. The Mexican servant who'd helped her escape the Whitmore house. The one person who'd shown her kindness in that hell. Elena. The judge repeated slowly. The girl who used to work for us. The one who disappeared the same night you did. She has it, Sam said. She's hiding in the old mission outside Broken Fork. That's where Maggie sent her, with the letter. The judge smiled. Cold. Satisfied. Edgar, take a team to Broken Fork. Find the girl. What about them? Lock them in the cellar. We'll deal with them once we have the letter. Guards grabbed Maggie, dragging her toward the door. She fought, twisted, tried to catch Sam's eye, but they were pulling her in different directions, separating them. Sam, she screamed. Sam, what did you do? He didn't answer. His head was down, shoulders slumped, the picture of defeat. But just before the door closed between them, she saw it. A flicker in his eyes. A ghost of something that might have been a plan. The cellar was dark, cold, damp. They threw her down the stairs without ceremony, slamming the door behind her. Maggie hit the stone floor hard, pain exploding through her already battered body. For a long moment, she just lay there, breathing, thinking, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Sam had betrayed her, given up Elena's location, handed the judge everything he needed to destroy the evidence and everyone connected to it. Unless he was lying. Maggie forced herself upright, testing her bonds. The rope was tight, but not impossible. She'd spent years watching her father work with his hands, learning how to manipulate metal and leather and rope. She twisted her wrists, working at the knots, ignoring the pain as the fibers bit into her skin. Elena wasn't in Broken Fork. Elena had left for Mexico 2 days ago, carrying nothing but a forged travel document and enough money to start a new life. Maggie had made sure of it. If she was going to drag anyone else into this nightmare, the least she could do was give them an escape route, which meant Sam had sent Edgar on a wild goose chase. But why? What was his angle? The rope loosened. Maggie pulled one hand free, then the other. She rubbed feeling back into her fingers, mind racing. Sam knew something she didn't. Had a plan she couldn't see. And right now, that plan was her only hope. The cellar door creaked. Maggie pressed herself against the wall, hands behind her back, pretending she was still bound. Footsteps descended, slow, careful, deliberate. A figure emerged from the shadows. Young, clean-shaven, wearing a deputy's badge. "Miss Holloway." His voice was barely a whisper. "Don't scream. I'm here to help." Maggie didn't move. "Who are you?" "Thomas Finch, deputy. I've worked for the judge for 3 years." He crouched in front of her, pulling a knife from his belt. "And I've watched him destroy everything good in this county. I'm done watching." "Why should I trust you?" "Because Sam Carver sent me." Thomas cut through her remaining bonds. "He told me where to find you, said you'd need help getting out." "Sam's upstairs. They're holding him." "No." Thomas shook his head. "They moved him 10 minutes ago. Took him to the mine, the same place they took William Kessler." Maggie's blood ran cold. "They're going to kill him. That's why we need to move, now." He helped her to her feet, steadying her when she swayed. Her body was screaming for rest, for food, for anything other than another fight. But she couldn't rest. Not while Sam was alive. "The mine," she said. "How far?" 2 miles north. "But the road's crawling with Whitmore's men." "Then we don't take the road." Thomas stared at her. "You can barely stand." "I've been barely standing for 3 days." Maggie grabbed his knife, tucking it into her belt. "Are you going to help me or not?" For a moment he hesitated. Then something shifted in his face. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. "Follow me." They slipped out through a service tunnel that ran beneath the courthouse, an escape route built during the war long forgotten. Thomas moved with the confidence of someone who'd walked this path before. Maggie followed, ignoring the pain, ignoring the exhaustion, focusing on one thing only. Sam. "How do you know him?" she asked as they emerged into the pre-dawn gray. "My father was a ranger, served with Sam back in '72. They caught a gang of cattle rustlers near the border." Thomas kept his voice low, eyes scanning the darkness. "My father always said Sam Carver was the best man he ever worked with. When I heard he was in trouble, I knew I had to help. Even if it costs you everything. Some things are worth more than everything." Thomas glanced at her. "You know that. Otherwise you wouldn't still be fighting." They moved through the shadows, avoiding the main streets, ducking behind buildings whenever guards passed. The town was waking up now, early risers heading to work, shopkeepers opening their doors. Normal people living normal lives, oblivious to the horror lurking beneath the surface. "The mine's just ahead," Thomas whispered, "but there's a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Guards. At least 6, maybe more." He pointed toward a ridge overlooking the mine entrance. "We can get eyes on them from up there. Figure out our approach." They climbed. Maggie's ribs protested every movement, but she pushed through. At the top, she flattened against the rocks and looked down. The mine entrance gaped like a wound in the hillside, surrounded by wooden supports and abandoned equipment. 4 guards stood at the entrance. 2 more patrolled the perimeter. And just inside, visible in the flickering torchlight, Sam was on his knees, hands bound behind his back. Edgar Whitmore stood over him, a pistol pressed to his head. "Last chance," Edgar said. "Where's the real letter?" Sam raised his head. Even from this distance, Maggie could see the blood on his face. "Go to hell." Edgar cocked the pistol. "Wrong answer." Maggie didn't think. She grabbed Thomas's rifle. "What are you—" She fired. The shot caught one of the perimeter guards in the shoulder, spinning him around. Chaos erupted. Guards scattered, searching for the shooter. Edgar ducked behind a support beam, dragging Sam with him. "Go." Maggie shoved Thomas forward. "Get him out, I'll cover you." "Are you insane?" "Probably." She fired again, keeping the guards pinned. "Move." Thomas moved. He scrambled down the ridge, using the confusion as cover. Maggie kept shooting, not to kill, just to distract. Every shot bought Thomas another second. One guard spotted her, raised his rifle. Maggie rolled behind a boulder as bullets cracked against the stone. Her heart hammered. 3 shots left in the rifle. 4 guards still standing. She needed a miracle. The explosion came from nowhere. A massive fireball erupted from the mine entrance, sending guards flying. Maggie covered her head as debris rained down. When she looked up, smoke billowed from the tunnel, and figures were running in every direction. And in the chaos, she saw him. Sam staggering out of the smoke, Thomas supporting him. Alive. Maggie scrambled down the ridge, rifle, forgotten pain, forgotten everything, forgotten except the need to reach him. She crashed into Sam hard enough to knock the breath from both of them, wrapping her arms around him, holding on like he might disappear. "You're alive!" she gasped. "You're alive, you stupid reckless." "Nice to see you too." His voice was rough, raw, but he was smiling. Actually smiling. "What happened? The explosion?" "Dynamite." Sam coughed, leaning heavily on Thomas. "They store it near the entrance. All it took was one well-placed lantern." "You could have been killed." "Could have been, wasn't." He straightened, wincing. "We need to move. Edgar, is that way?" Thomas pointed toward a figure stumbling from the smoke. "But he's hurt. We can take him." Maggie looked at Edgar Whitmore, covered in soot, limping, coughing. Pathetic. Small. Not the monster who'd killed William Kessler. Just a man. A broken, desperate man. She started toward him. "Maggie." Sam grabbed her arm. "What are you doing?" "Finishing this." She walked through the smoke, through the chaos, until she stood directly in front of Edgar Whitmore. He looked up at her eyes, red with pain and rage. "You," he snarled. "You did this. You destroyed everything." "No." Maggie's voice was calm now, steady. "You destroyed everything. You killed an innocent man. You hunted me like an animal. You threatened everyone who tried to help me." She pulled the knife from her belt, Thomas's knife, and held it against Edgar's throat. "And now you're going to pay for it." "You can't kill me." Edgar laughed, high and hysterical. "You're just a housekeeper, a nobody. You don't have the stomach for— You're right." Maggie lowered the knife. "I'm not going to kill you." Edgar's eyes flickered with hope. "I'm going to do something worse." Maggie reached into her corset and pulled out the letter. The real letter, stained with blood and sweat, folded small but still intact. "I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what you did. Every detail, every lie, every body buried in that mine." Edgar's face went white. "Where did you— how— You searched me." Maggie almost smiled. "But you didn't search well enough." Hoofbeats thundered in the distance. Maggie turned, bracing for more guards, more Whitmore men, more danger. But the riders who crested the hill wore different badges. Federal badges. "U.S. Marshals," someone shouted. "Everyone on the ground, now." Maggie's knees buckled. Sam caught her before she fell. "How?" she breathed. How are they here? Ruth. Sam's voice was thick with emotion. She got a message out before they took her. Sent a rider to Austin the moment she knew we were in trouble. Ruth saved us. We all saved each other. The marshals swarmed the mine, securing guards pulling Edgar Whitmore to his feet. One of them, older, gray-bearded, with a star that gleamed in the dawn light, approached Maggie. "Ma'am, I'm Marshal Henry Cole. We received word that you have evidence against Judge Cornelius Whitmore." Maggie held out the letter. Her hand was shaking, but her voice was strong. "Everything you need is right here." The marshal took it, scanned the contents. His expression darkened. "This is enough to hang them both," he said quietly. "The judge and his son." "There's more." Maggie pointed toward the mine. "Bodies. Evidence. Enough to prove everything I've told you." "We'll search it." Marshal Cole nodded to his men. "Take Whitmore into custody and find the judge." "He's in town," Thomas spoke up. "Courthouse. He thinks he's won." "Then let's disappoint him." The marshal mounted his horse, gesturing for his men to follow. "Mr. Carver, Miss Holloway, you're going to want to see this." They rode into Redstone Creek as the sun rose. The streets were full now, people emerging from their homes to stare at the procession of marshals. Whispers spread like wildfire. The judge. Arrested. Impossible. But it wasn't impossible. The courthouse doors burst open as they approached. Judge Cornelius Whitmore stood on the steps, 2 armed guards flanking him. His face was composed, confident, the mask firmly in place. "Marshal Cole." His voice carried across the square. "What's the meaning of this intrusion?" "Judge Whitmore, you're under arrest for the murder of William Kessler, conspiracy to commit fraud and obstruction of justice." "Absurd." The judge smiled. "On what evidence?" "On my evidence." Maggie stepped forward, standing before the crowd of townspeople who'd gathered. "I was there the night you killed him. I watched your son put a bullet in his head. I heard you plan how to cover it up." "The word of a housekeeper." The judge laughed. "No court in Texas would—" "It's not just my word." Maggie held up the ring, William Kessler's ring, the seal still intact. "This was on your floor, next to his blood. And there's a letter in his own hand documenting everything you stole from him." The murmurs grew louder. People pressed closer, staring at the ring, at the letter, at the judge. "She's lying," the judge said. But his voice had changed. Less confident now. More desperate. "This is a conspiracy. She's working with criminals, with—" "Your son's in custody," Marshal Cole interrupted. "He's already talking, trying to save his own skin." The color drained from the judge's face. "It's over, Cornelius." Marshal Cole dismounted, walking toward the steps. "You can come quietly, or we can drag you out in chains. Your choice." For a long moment the judge didn't move. His eyes swept the crowd, the people he'd ruled for 20 years, the county he'd built on blood and lies. And something in him finally broke. He reached for his pistol. 3 shots cracked through the morning air. The judge stumbled, clutching his chest, and collapsed on the courthouse steps. Maggie didn't know who fired. Didn't care. She watched Cornelius Whitmore die on the same steps where he'd sentenced innocent men to hang, and she felt nothing but relief. The crowd erupted, cheering, crying, embracing. 20 years of fear released in a single moment. And through it all, Sam stood beside her. Silent, solid, real. "It's over," she whispered. "It's over," he agreed. But it wasn't. Not quite. Because somewhere in the chaos, she heard another voice, familiar, desperate, alive. "Sam, Maggie!" Ruth pushed through the crowd, face streaked with tears, arms thrown wide. Sam caught her in a crushing embrace, lifting her off her feet. "You're alive!" he choked out. "God, Ruth! Don't you ever do that again." Ruth pulled back, slapping his shoulder. "Don't you ever get captured trying to save some stranger without telling me first." "She's not a stranger." Sam glanced at Maggie. Not anymore. Ruth followed his gaze. For a moment the two women just looked at each other, this widow who'd risked everything, this housekeeper who'd fought for her life. Then Ruth smiled. "You kept him alive," she said. "He kept me alive," Maggie replied. "Then we're even." Ruth pulled her into a hug, fierce and unexpected. "Welcome to the family." Maggie didn't know what to say, didn't know what she was feeling. The adrenaline was fading, the pain returning, the exhaustion crashing over her in waves. But beneath it all, something else stirred, something that felt almost like hope. She looked at Sam over Ruth's shoulder. He was watching her expression, unreadable. "What now?" she asked. "Now?" Sam stepped closer, close enough that she could see the cuts on his face, the bruises forming around his eyes. "Now we rest, heal, figure out what comes next." "And after that?" He didn't answer right away, just reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her face with fingers that were surprisingly gentle. "After that," he said quietly, "is up to you." Maggie closed her eyes. For 3 days she'd been running, fighting, surviving. She'd had no time to think about anything beyond the next moment, the next danger, the next breath. But now the danger was gone. The fight was over. And for the first time since this nightmare began, she could imagine a future that included a stubborn rancher with sad eyes and steady hands, a future that included a place to call home, a future that belonged to her, not to the Whitmores, not to fear, not to anyone but herself. "Stay with me," Sam said, "at the ranch, just until you're healed. And after I'm healed, then you can decide what you want." His hand dropped to his side. "No pressure, no expectations, just stay." Maggie opened her eyes, looked at this man who'd risked everything for a stranger, who'd walked into hell because he couldn't walk away again. "Okay," she said. He blinked. "Okay. Okay, I'll stay." She almost smiled. "But you're teaching me to shoot that rifle." Sam laughed, really laughed, the sound rough and surprised and real. "Deal." Around them, the town of Redstone Creek began to rebuild. Marshals took statements. Deputies who'd served the judge quietly disappeared. And for the first time in 20 years, the people looked at each other without fear. Maggie watched it all, leaning against Sam's shoulder, letting herself breathe. The fight wasn't over. Not completely. There would be trials and testimonies and long, hard days ahead. But for now, in this moment, she allowed herself to hope. She'd crawled out of hell with nothing but a letter and a hammer. She'd found something worth fighting for. And she wasn't letting go. 2 weeks passed. The bruises faded from purple to yellow to nothing. The ribs still ached when Maggie breathed too deep, but she could walk without wincing now, could ride without crying out, could almost forget what it felt like to run for her life. Almost. Sam's ranch was quiet. Too quiet. After days of gunshots and screaming and hoofbeats thundering behind her, the silence felt wrong, like a held breath, like something waiting to happen. "You're thinking too loud." Maggie looked up. Sam stood in the cabin doorway, coffee cup in hand, watching her with those steady eyes. He looked different now, less haunted. The shadows under his eyes had lightened, and she'd caught him smiling twice this morning alone. "I'm always thinking," she said. "It's a habit. A bad one." He crossed to her, holding out the cup. "Drink. Eat. Stop staring at the horizon like it's gonna bite you." "It might. It won't." Sam sat beside her on the porch step. "Edgar's in federal custody. The marshals rounded up every man who worked for the judge. Half the county's giving testimony about crimes going back 15 years. He paused. "It's over, Maggie." "Is it?" The question hung between them. Sam didn't answer right away. He knew what she meant. The danger might be gone, but the scars remained. Some wounds didn't heal just because the bleeding stopped. "Maybe not," he admitted. "But you're safe here. That's what matters. For now." For as long as you want." He turned to look at her, something shifting in his expression. "I meant what I said. No pressure, no expectations. You can stay or go, or your choice." "What if I don't know what I want?" "Then you figure it out." Sam stood brushing off his pants. "I've got fences to mend. You're welcome to help if you're tired of sitting around." Maggie almost laughed. "You're asking me to mend fences? You said you wanted to learn practical skills." He grabbed his hat from the post. "This is practical." She followed him. Not because she wanted to mend fences, but because the alternative was sitting alone with her thoughts, and her thoughts were dangerous company these days. They worked in silence for the first hour. Sam showed her how to check the posts, how to string wire without cutting her hands, how to read the land for weak spots. He was patient, methodical, the kind of teacher who explained once and expected you to remember. Maggie liked that. No coddling, no treating her like she might break. "You're good at this," she said finally. "I've had practice." "I don't mean the fences." She straightened, wiping sweat from her forehead. "I mean, being alone, building something from nothing. Most people can't do that." Sam paused, hammer in hand. "I didn't have a choice. After Sarah..." He stopped, started again. "After Sarah, I couldn't stay. Couldn't look at the places we'd been together. So I came out here. Bought this land with what I had left. Built the cabin with my own hands. You ran away. I survived." His voice was sharp. "There's a difference." "Is there?" Sam set down the hammer. For a moment he just looked at her, really looked like he was seeing something he hadn't noticed before. "You're pushing," he said quietly. "You're deflecting. Maybe we're both too stubborn for our own good. Maybe." Maggie stepped closer. "But I've spent 3 years in a house full of lies. People who smiled to my face and plotted my death behind my back. I'm tired of pretending, Sam. I'm tired of dancing around the truth." "What truth?" "That you didn't save me out of guilt. That this isn't just about your sister." She held his gaze. "That there's something else here. Something neither of us wants to name." The air between them felt electric, heavy with words unspoken. Sam broke first. He turned away, grabbing the hammer, attacking the fence post with more force than necessary. "We should finish up. Storm's coming." Maggie let him retreat, for now, but she'd seen it, the flicker in his eyes before he shut down, the way his breath had caught when she stepped close. He felt it too, whatever this was between them. He just wasn't ready to admit it. The storm hit that night. Rain hammered the roof, turning the world outside into a wall of water. Maggie sat by the fire watching the flames dance, listening to the thunder roll across the hills. Sam paced. He'd been restless all evening, checking the windows, testing the door, like he expected someone to come crashing through. Old habits, she realized. Ranger habits. "Sit down," she said finally. "You're making me dizzy." "Can't. Can't or won't." He stopped pacing, running a hand through his hair. "Something's wrong." "It's a storm, Sam. That's all." "No." He moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. "I've got a feeling. The kind I used to get before an ambush. Like the air's holding its breath." Maggie stood, crossing to his side. "You think someone's out there?" "I don't know." His hand drifted to the pistol at his hip. "But I don't like not knowing." A crack of lightning lit up the yard. For one frozen second, Maggie saw something, a figure half hidden behind the barn watching the cabin. She grabbed Sam's arm. "There, by the barn." Sam was already moving. He grabbed his rifle, checked the chamber, and headed for the door. "Stay here." "Like hell." "Maggie." "I said like hell." She snatched her hammer from the table. "You're not going out there alone." He looked at her, frustration and admiration warring in his expression. Then he nodded. "Stay behind me, and if I say run, you run." "Deal." They slipped out through the back, using the rain as cover. Maggie's heart pounded, but her hands were steady. She'd done this before, survived worse odds. Sam moved like a ghost, silent, despite the mud sucking at his boots. They circled the barn, coming at the figure from behind. Lightning flashed again. The figure turned. It was a woman. Young, maybe 17, 18. Soaked to the bone, shivering violently. Her face was familiar somehow, though Maggie couldn't place it. "Don't shoot," the girl gasped. "Please. I'm looking for Sam Carver." Sam lowered his rifle, but didn't holster it. "Who's asking?" "My name is Elena." The girl's eyes flickered to Maggie. "Elena Reyes, you helped me escape 2 weeks ago. Remember?" Maggie's breath caught. "Elena, what are you doing here? You were supposed to be in Mexico by now." "I tried." Elena's voice broke. "But they found me at the border. Whitmore's men. I thought they were all arrested, but there were more. Hidden. They've been hunting anyone who helped you." "How many?" Sam demanded. "I don't know. 6, 7. Elena swayed, and Maggie caught her before she fell. "They're coming here. Tonight. I rode 3 days to warn you." Sam's face hardened. "Get her inside. Now!" They half-carried Elena to the cabin, settling her by the fire. Maggie wrapped blankets around the girl's shoulders while Sam barricaded the door. "How long?" Maggie asked. "How long before they get here?" "Hours, maybe less." Elena's teeth chattered. "Their leader, he's not like the others. Whitmore hired him special. A man named Colt. He doesn't stop, doesn't give up. He's killed 3 people already trying to find you." Colt. Maggie didn't recognize the name, but she recognized the type. Professional, relentless. The kind of man who didn't care about justice or revenge, only about getting paid. "We need to leave," she said. "And go where?" Sam checked his rifle, then handed her a pistol. "If they're tracking Elena, they'll track us too. Running just delays the inevitable. So we stay and fight. We stay and fight." Maggie's grip tightened on the pistol. "How many bullets do we have?" "Enough, maybe." Sam moved to the window, scanning the darkness. "Ruth's in town. Thomas is with the marshals. We're on our own." "We've been on our own before." "That was different." "Was it?" Maggie crossed to him, standing close enough that she could see the tension in his jaw. "We survived Edgar. We survived the judge. We'll survive this too." "You don't know that." "No, but I know you." She reached up, touching his face. He flinched, then stilled. "I know you don't quit. I know you fight for people who can't fight for themselves. And I know—" Her voice dropped. "I know you're not going to let anything happen to me." Sam's eyes met hers. Something raw passed between them. Fear. Hope. Something deeper that neither could name. "I can't lose anyone else," he said quietly. "Not again." "You won't. You can't promise that." "No." Maggie rose on her toes, pressing her lips to his. The kiss was brief, desperate, tasting like rain and gunpowder. "But I can promise I'll fight beside you, whatever happens." When she pulled back, Sam's expression had changed. The fear was still there, but something else had joined it. Determination. Resolve. "Then let's make them regret coming here," he said. They worked fast. Elena recovered enough to help moving furniture, to create barriers, loading weapons, setting traps. The storm still raged outside, masking their movements. But it would mask the attackers too. Midnight came and went. Maggie crouched behind an overturned table, pistol in hand, watching the door. Elena huddled in the corner with a shotgun she barely knew how to hold. Sam moved between windows, rifle ready. The waiting was the worst part. Minutes stretched like hours. Every sound made her flinch, rain on the roof, wind against the walls, thunder rolling overhead. Then she heard it. Hoofbeats. "They're here," Sam breathed. The door exploded inward. Men poured through the opening, guns blazing. Sam fired first, dropping the leader before he cleared the threshold. Maggie squeezed her trigger, felt the kick against her palm, saw a man stagger and fall. Chaos erupted. Gunfire, screaming. The cabin filling with smoke and blood. Elena fired the shotgun, wild-panicked, but the blast caught a man in the chest, sending him crashing backward. She screamed, dropped the gun, crawled toward the corner. Maggie kept shooting. 1 bullet left. 2 targets. She aimed, squeezed, missed. The man lunged. She swung the pistol like a club, connecting with his temple, sending him sprawling. No more bullets. She grabbed her hammer. The man rose, snarling. Maggie swung. Missed. He tackled her, driving her into the wall. Pain exploded through her ribs. She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. His hands closed around her throat. Darkness crept at the edges of her vision. She clawed at his face. His arms anything she could reach. The hammer was gone, knocked away in the fall. She couldn't. A gunshot. The man's grip loosened. He slumped sideways, blood pooling beneath him. Maggie gasped, sucking in air. Sam stood over her rifle, smoking. Up, he said. More coming. She grabbed his hand, pulled herself to her feet. 3 more men were climbing through the broken door. Sam fired twice, hitting one, missing the other. His rifle clicked empty. The second man raised his pistol. A shot rang out, not from inside the cabin, from outside. The man dropped a hole in his back. "Federal marshals!" a voice bellowed. "Everyone on the ground! Now!" Maggie sagged against the wall. Through the smoke and chaos, she saw figures in the doorway, men with badges, rifles leveled. Thomas Finch led them, face grim but alive. "Clear!" someone shouted. "Clear!" It was over. Maggie slid to the floor, letting the wall hold her up. Her hands were shaking. Her throat ached where the man had gripped it. Every breath felt like a miracle. Sam collapsed beside her. Blood seeped from a wound on his arm, shallow, not fatal, but real. "You're hurt," she said. "So are you." "We're alive." "Yeah." He leaned his head back against the wall, eyes closing. "We're alive." Thomas approached, holstering his weapon. "We got word about Colt an hour ago. Rode as fast as we could." "Elena warned us," Maggie managed. "She saved our lives." Thomas looked toward the corner where Elena sat, huddled, tears streaming down her face. "We'll get her somewhere safe, all of you." "How did you know?" Sam asked. "Ruth." Thomas almost smiled. "That woman's got more contacts than a telegraph office. The moment she heard Colt was moving, she sent riders in every direction." Ruth. Again. That woman had saved them more times than Maggie could count. "Where is she?" Maggie asked. "On her way. Should be here by morning." Thomas glanced around the destroyed cabin at the bodies scattered across the floor. "Hell of a fight." "Hell of a night," Sam corrected. Maggie reached for his hand. Found it. Held on. "Is it over now?" Elena's voice was small, broken. "Really over." Thomas nodded. "Colt was the last of them. We've got everyone else in custody. Without Whitmore's money backing them, the rest will scatter. So it's done. It's done." The words should have felt triumphant, should have filled Maggie with relief, but all she felt was empty, exhausted, like she'd been hollowed out and left to dry in the Texas sun. Sam squeezed her hand. She looked at him, really looked, at the blood and bruises, at the exhaustion carved into his face, at the way his eyes stayed fixed on hers like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. "Stay," he said, just that one word. "I already said I would. I mean for good." His voice cracked. "Stay. Build something here. With me." Maggie's heart stuttered. "You're asking me?" "I'm asking you to give this a chance. Us. Whatever this is." He lifted their joined hands. "I know it's too fast. I know we barely know each other. But I know how I feel when you're next to me. I know I can't imagine waking up and you not being here." "Sam, you don't have to answer now. Just think about it." But Maggie didn't need to think. She'd been thinking for 2 weeks, circling the same truth over and over again, running from it, afraid of it. She wasn't afraid anymore. "Yes," she said. Sam blinked. "Yes. Yes, I'll stay. Yes, I'll give this a chance." She lifted their joined hands to her lips, kissing his knuckles. "Yes." For the first time since she'd known him, Sam Carver looked like a man without weight on his shoulders. The shadows in his eyes lifted, the tension in his jaw released. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her like he was afraid she might disappear. Maggie buried her face in his shoulder, breathing him in sweat and gunpowder, and something underneath that was just Sam. Around them, marshals moved through the wreckage, clearing bodies and securing weapons. Elena sat wrapped in blankets, slowly warming. The storm outside was finally breaking, the first hints of dawn creeping through the shattered windows. And in the middle of it all, two broken people held on to each other. Not because they had to, because they wanted to. Maggie closed her eyes, letting the exhaustion wash over her. Tomorrow there would be questions, testimonies, a cabin to rebuild, and a life to figure out. But tonight, she was safe, she was alive, and she was exactly where she wanted to be, in the arms of a man who'd fought for her when no one else would. A man who'd given her something she'd never had before. A home. 3 months changed everything. The cabin rose from the ashes, rebuilt stronger than before. New walls, new roof, new windows that let in the Texas sun. Maggie had hammered every nail, sanded, every board, poured herself into the work until her hands bled and her muscles screamed for mercy. She didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Building felt like breathing now. Sam watched her from the porch, coffee in hand, the same way he'd watched her every morning since that bloody night. "You're gonna work yourself to death." "I'm almost done." "You said that yesterday." "Yesterday I was lying." Maggie straightened, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Today, I mean it." The final board slid into place. Perfect fit. She stepped back, examining her work, a new shelf for the kitchen, sturdy enough to hold dishes and heavy enough to survive another storm. "Not bad," Sam said. "Not bad, it's perfect." "It's crooked." "It's character." She crossed to him, stealing his coffee cup. "My father used to say the same thing. Nothing worth building is perfectly straight, Maggie. The imperfections make it real." Sam's eyes softened. He reached out, brushing sawdust from her cheek. "You talk about him more now." "I think about him more now." She took a long drink of the coffee. "Being here working with my hands, it brings him back. In a good way." "I'm glad." They stood together, watching the sun climb higher. The ranch stretched before them, green from recent rains, dotted with cattle Sam had purchased from a neighbor selling out. Life was returning to this place, slowly, carefully, but returning. "Ruth's coming today," Sam said. Maggie's stomach tightened. "I know. You nervous?" "Should I be?" Sam hesitated. That hesitation told her everything. "What aren't you telling me?" "Nothing." He turned away, heading for the barn. "I've got chores." "Sam Carver, if you walk away from me right now." "I've got chores, Maggie." She let him go. For now. But she'd noticed the way he'd been acting the past few days, distracted, secretive, disappearing for hours without explanation. Something was happening. Something he wasn't ready to share. Ruth arrived at noon, riding in on a wagon loaded with supplies. Elena sat beside her, looking healthier than Maggie had seen her in months. The girl had been staying in Broken Fork, helping Ruth run the boarding house. A fresh start. "Maggie?" Ruth pulled her into a crushing hug. "Lord, you look like you've been wrestling cattle." "Just building shelves." "Same difference." Ruth stepped back, examining her with sharp eyes. "You're eating, sleeping, not working yourself to an early grave." "Yes, yes, and mostly yes." Liar. But Ruth was smiling. "Where's my fool of a brother-in-law? Barn. Being mysterious. Ruth's smile flickered. Just for a second, but Maggie caught it. "You know something," Maggie said. "I know lots of things." "Ruth." "It's not my place to say." Ruth squeezed her arm. "But trust him. Whatever he's planning, trust him." Before Maggie could push further, Elena approached. The girl had filled out since the attack, color returning to her cheeks, strength to her limbs. But her eyes still carried shadows. "Miss Holloway," Elena's voice was quiet. "I wanted to thank you, again, for everything." "You don't owe me thanks. You saved our lives." "You saved mine first." Elena reached into her pocket, pulling out a folded paper. "This came to the boarding house. For you. From Austin." Maggie took the letter, recognizing the federal seal immediately. Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. "What is it?" Ruth asked. Maggie read silently, then read it again, unable to believe the words. "The trial," she finally said. "Edgar Whitmore's trial. They're asking me to testify. In Austin. Next month." Ruth's face paled. "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." Maggie folded the letter carefully. "This isn't over until he's convicted, until everyone knows what he did. The evidence? The evidence isn't enough. They need my testimony, my words." She looked up, meeting Ruth's eyes. "I'm the only one who saw him pull the trigger." Silence fell, heavy. Weighted with everything that testimony would mean, reliving the nightmare facing Edgar in open court, putting herself back in the crosshairs of anyone still loyal to the Whitmore name. "Sam won't like it," Ruth said quietly. "Sam doesn't get to decide." "I know. But he'll worry. He can worry and still support me." Maggie tucked the letter into her pocket. "If he can't do that, then we have a bigger problem." Sam came out of the barn 2 hours later, cleaned up, wearing a fresh shirt Maggie didn't recognize. His hair was combed, his boots were polished. He looked like a man heading to church or a funeral. "You're dressed up," she said. "Ruth made me." "Ruth's inside drinking whiskey." "Then I made me." He stopped in front of her, hands fidgeting at his sides. "I've got something to show you." "Is it related to why you've been acting strange all week?" "Maybe." "Sam, just come with me. Please." She followed him. Past the barn, past the corral, past the new fence line she'd helped him mend. They walked until the ranch buildings disappeared behind a ridge, until they reached a spot where an old oak tree stood alone against the sky. And beneath that tree, something new. A forge. Maggie stopped breathing. It wasn't large, nothing like her father's workshop in San Antonio, but it was real. An anvil, a furnace, tools hanging from a wooden rack. Everything a blacksmith needed to shape metal into meaning. "How?" Her voice cracked. "How did you—" "Thomas helped. And Ruth, and a few others who owed favors." Sam moved to her side, watching her face. "You told me your father was a blacksmith. That he taught you everything. That you missed it." "I did. I do. I know I can't replace what you lost, can't bring him back. But I thought maybe—" He stopped, suddenly uncertain. "Maybe you could build something new. Here. With me." Maggie walked to the forge like a woman in a dream. She ran her fingers over the anvil, feeling the cold metal, imagining the heat that would bring it to life. The hammer hanging from the rack was smaller than she was used to, but the weight was right. The balance was right. Everything was right. "You built this for me," she whispered. "I had help. You built this for me." She turned to face him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Nobody's ever. I've never—" Words failed her. 3 months of building walls, building shelves, building a life, and still she hadn't learned how to build sentences for what she felt. So she kissed him instead. Not the desperate kiss from before the attack. This was different. Slower. Deeper. The kind of kiss that said everything words couldn't. When they finally pulled apart, Sam's eyes were bright with something she'd never seen there before. Hope, maybe. or wonder. "Does this mean you like it?" he asked. "Don't ruin the moment." "Sorry." "You're not." "No, I'm not." He pulled her close forehead resting against hers. "I've got something else. One more thing." "Sam, this is all ready." "Just one more thing." He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small leather pouch. "I found this in your belongings. After the attack when we were cleaning up. It must have fallen from your pack." Maggie took the pouch, opened it, and the world stopped. Her father's keychain, the steel one he'd made for her when she was 12, the one she'd carried for 15 years through every hardship, every loss, every moment of despair. The one she thought she'd lost forever in the chaos. "Oh, God." The tears came harder now. "Oh, God. I thought it was gone." "I know." Sam's voice was rough. "I've been carrying it ever since, waiting for the right moment. Why didn't you?" "Because I wanted to give it back when you were ready, when this place felt like home, when you weren't just surviving anymore." He took her hands, the keychain pressed between their palms. "Your father gave you this to protect yourself, but I think he'd want you to know you don't have to fight alone anymore." Maggie clutched the keychain like a lifeline. The steel was warm from Sam's pocket, warm from months of waiting, warm, like the hope spreading through her chest. "I got a letter," she said, "from Austin. They want me to testify at Edgar's trial." Sam's jaw tightened, but he didn't pull away. "I'm going," she continued. "I have to. It's the only way to end this." "I know." "You're not going to argue? Would it do any good? No." "Then I'm coming with you." He lifted her chin, meeting her eyes. "Whatever happens wherever you go, I'm right there beside you. That's a promise." Maggie believed him. For the first time in her life, she believed someone's promise. The trial started on a Tuesday. Austin was bigger than Maggie remembered, louder, busier, more crowded. But nothing felt as overwhelming as the moment she walked into that courtroom. Edgar Whitmore sat at the defendant's table, thinner than before, his arrogance stripped away by months in custody. He looked at Maggie when she entered, and something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, hatred, fear. Good. Let him fear her. Sam sat in the gallery, Ruth beside him. Thomas had come too, wearing his deputy badge with pride. Elena waited in the hallway, too nervous to watch, but too loyal to leave. The prosecutor approached the stand. "Please state your name for the record." "Margaret Holloway." "And, Miss Holloway, you were employed by the Whitmore family from March 1876 until June 1879, is that correct?" "That's correct." "Can you tell the court what you witnessed on the night of June 15, 1879? Maggie took a breath. 3 months of healing, 3 months of building, and it all came down to this. One story, one truth, one chance to make it count. "I saw Edgar Whitmore murder William Kessler." The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Edgar's lawyer leapt to his feet, objecting, demanding, but Maggie kept talking. Through the chaos, through the noise, through every attempt to silence her. She told them everything. The argument she'd overheard, the gunshot that had frozen her blood. The way Edgar had laughed while cleaning his pistol, joking about how easy it had been. The letter she'd stolen. The ring she'd hidden. The 3 days of running for her life. Every word was a nail in Edgar Whitmore's coffin. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. The prosecutor nodded, satisfied. Edgar's lawyer looked like a man who'd already lost. And Edgar himself, Edgar stared at her with murder in his eyes. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "You'll regret every word." "No." Maggie met his gaze without flinching. "The only thing I regret is not speaking sooner." The verdict came 3 days later. Guilty. On all counts. Edgar Whitmore was sentenced to hang. Maggie watched them lead him away, chains rattling, shoulders slumped in defeat. The monster who'd haunted her nightmares, who'd hunted her across Texas, who'd killed an innocent man without remorse, reduced to nothing. Just a man. just a criminal, just another body bound for the gallows. She felt nothing, no triumph, no satisfaction, just a hollow emptiness where the fear used to live. Sam found her outside the courthouse staring at the sunset. He didn't say anything, just stood beside her solid and warm and real. "It's done," she said finally. "How do you feel?" "Empty." She leaned into him. "I thought I'd feel different, victorious, but I just feel tired." "That's normal?" "Is it?" "I felt the same way when they caught the men who killed Sarah. Like the fight was finally over, but there was nothing left to fill the space." He wrapped an arm around her. "It takes time. But you'll find something better than revenge." "Like what?" "Like building a life, making a home, waking up next to someone who makes the emptiness feel a little less heavy." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Like this." They stood together as the sun sank below the horizon. Behind them, the courthouse emptied. Around them, Austin continued its endless bustle. But for a moment, just for one perfect moment, the world felt still. "Take me home," Maggie said. Yeah. She turned to face him, taking his hands in hers. "I'm ready." They rode back to Redstone Creek in stages, stopping at towns along the way, taking their time. There was no rush anymore. No danger pursuing them. Just the open road and the endless Texas sky. Ruth and Elena had gone ahead preparing a celebration at the boarding house. Thomas had promised to meet them there. Even Marshall Cole had sent word he'd be passing through, wanted to shake the hand of the bravest woman in Texas. Maggie didn't feel brave. She felt like a woman who'd been pushed to the edge and refused to fall. Maybe that was bravery. Maybe bravery wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to keep moving despite it. They reached the ranch on a Sunday morning. The forge gleamed in the early light waiting for her. The cabin stood solid and strong, rebuilt from destruction. The cattle grazed peacefully, unaware of the battles that had been fought to protect this place. Home. Maggie dismounted her boots, hitting the familiar dust. Sam came to stand beside her, watching her face. "What now?" he asked. "Now." She looked at the forge, at the cabin, at the land stretching before them. "Now I build something." "What?" "Everything." She pulled her father's keychain from her pocket, running her thumb over the worn steel. "A life, a family, a future that nobody can take from me." Sam smiled, really smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. "Need any help?" "Maybe." She stepped closer, lacing her fingers through his. "You any good with a hammer?" "I'm learning." "Then I guess you'll do." He kissed her slow, sweet, the kind of kiss that promised everything and demanded nothing. When they pulled apart, the sun had risen higher, bathing the ranch in golden light. "There's one more thing," Sam said. "Lord, more surprises. Just one." He reached into his saddlebag, pulling out something small and metal. A key. "This is yours. The cabin, the land, everything. I talked to a lawyer in Austin, had papers drawn up. Half of this place belongs to you now, legally, permanently." Maggie stared at the key. Such a simple thing. Just a piece of metal like any other. But what it represented, what it meant. "You're giving me your home," she whispered. "I'm giving you our home." He pressed the key into her palm. "Your father taught you to fight for yourself. But I want you to know you've got something to fight for now. Something that's yours. No one can ever take it away." The tears came again. But this time they weren't grief. They weren't fear. They were joy. "I love you." The words spilled out before she could stop them. "I love you, Sam Carver. And I don't care if it's too fast or too soon or—" He kissed her again. Hard. Desperate. The kind of kiss that swallowed words and made them unnecessary. "I love you too," he said against her lips. "Took you long enough to say it." "I was busy surviving." "Excuses." She laughed. Actually laughed, the sound surprising both of them. It had been so long since she'd laughed like that, free, unburdened, alive. "Come on." She grabbed his hand, pulling him toward the cabin. "Ruth's probably already inside making a mess of our kitchen." "Our kitchen?" "That's what I said." "I know. I just like hearing it." They walked together hand in hand toward the home they'd built from the ashes of destruction. Behind them, the sun continued to rise. Before them, the future stretched wide and open and full of possibility. Maggie Holloway had crawled into Redstone Creek with nothing but a letter and a hammer. Now she had a forge, a farm, a family, and a love she'd never expected to find. Her father had been right. Nothing worth building was perfectly straight. The imperfections made it real. The struggles made it meaningful. The scars made it strong. She'd been broken, beaten, left for dead. But she'd refused to stay down, refused to let fear define her, refused to believe that her worth was determined by the cruelty of others. And now, standing on the porch of the home she'd helped rebuild, with her own 2 hands looking at the man who'd fought beside her, every step of the way, she knew the truth. Her worth had never depended on where she came from, not on her family name, not on her station in life, not on what others said she deserved. Her worth was built from the choices she made, the battles she fought, the love she gave and received. And no one, not judges, not outlaws, not the whole damn state of Texas, could ever take that away. The sun rose over the Carver Ranch, golden and warm and full of promise. And Margaret Holloway, the housekeeper, who'd brought down an empire, finally let herself believe in tomorrow.